Today I thought I'd share a video of our training session yesterday working with Enzo on steadiness. Most of our dogs have always been steady to wing, shot, and fall well before they're a year of age, so I thought I would show how we do this type of training. So I'm walking Enzo up with the check cord in hand. You can see I've got a loose check cord here, but I know he's coming close to the bird, so I want to be ready to pull him into a point if he doesn't point. It was a really hot, windy afternoon, so you can see tongue out. He's not super intense, but he has stopped into his point. So I trust him enough at this point that I can walk around to the side. In fact, I often like to stop and take photos of the dogs before we walk in and flush. This actually helps a lot with their steadiness because they don't anticipate the flush happening very quickly. They know it's going to be a little while before it happens, so you can see he's pretty relaxed. And while I'm taking photos, I do have my halt whistle in my mouth. So if he were to unexpectedly break, I'm ready to try to blow him down. Once we've got the photos, I'm going to move back into position. I'm holding the check cord so he can't break, while Scott is going to flush and shoot the bird. This is always a two-person job. Pigeons weren't flying great. All right, notice how Enzo did not move, still have a loose check cord. I've just got a hold of it for insurance. And then I usually try to pet the dog a few times before I release them. Just again, keep them calm. Don't make them think that the second you touch them, they're going to get to go. And then I tap the back of his head with a quick fetch command. You can see how happy he is to retrieve. I've got my whistle in my mouth. This time the other end of the dual tone whistle is in so that I can give him a come command if he needs it. He is force broke, but live birds are usually a little tricky. He's a little sloppy here, so I just reach down and give him a quick nick with the collar to remind him that he's got to hold the live bird nicely too. And here I'm just taking another photo of him. It's good for him to learn to sit and wait to deliver it to hand. And then I scratch the chest before taking the bird so that he doesn't ever anticipate dropping that bird early. On test day, he's got to sit and present to hand, so we expect that in training as well. I always give him one little food treat, and then because it's so hot, I usually give a drink of water too as soon as they've completed the retrieve. All right, so let's go through that video just one more time. Make sure you know exactly where the bird is planted, so you can pull the check cord taunt if necessary. Because he was so steady during this training session, I will probably not use the check cord next time, but he is also e-collar conditioned. So this is a good opportunity for you to as well transition to that e-collar if you haven't already. I might also mention this is Enzo's 4th time ever on captive birds. So I think the other reason that he's so steady already is, well, 2 things. He's a strong natural pointer. He's always pointed everything that we've planted for him. But 2, just don't overdo it. I think a lot of people overdo pointing where they feel like they have to do it every week. You don't. Once your dog is pointing well, work on other things. In our case, once I knew he was pointing, I just quit doing all bird work and we did force fetch so that when we got back to pointing work, he would have some nice manner of his retrieves. I wouldn't have another issue to correct. So you can see his tail's wagging here. He's not super intense, but I'm not worried about that for now. I mean, we're testing dogs in the German system where intensity really doesn't matter. That, and again, he's a young dog without a ton of bird experience. He'll naturally get a lot more intense and stylish as we move to other species of bird. And then as he just gets more comfortable with the process. I mean, when we're just going on walks in the afternoons and evenings, he points a lot more stylishly on rabbits and wild quail. So my philosophy is to just get the steadiness, the obedience part down. If this is what you're going to expect of your dog, teach them now, show them that there's no other option, and then you'll never have an issue with steadiness training. And I do like to have dogs force broke before I go into steadiness training, just so I can get some nice retrieves here instead of having sloppy retrieves I'm going to have to waste time fixing later. But that's really all it takes. You know, we usually do 2 or 3 birds in a session, and the sessions might be a week apart if we've got a young dog still struggling on pointing a little bit or steadiness. but because he was so steady here, it might be another month before we do bird work again. Like, I know he's got a search, I know he points. There's no need to keep doing something that your dog is really good at, because all that does is encourage them to get bored. And when they get bored, that's when you start to see a lot more problems happen, where they're going to try to find ways to catch the bird or develop other bad habits. I should mention one last thing. What do you do if your dog does break somewhere throughout this sequence? The first thing is you should have a check cord on if there's any chance of your dog breaking, or at least an e-collar where you can buzz the dog. And then again, I always have my halt whistle in my mouth. So I would blow the halt whistle, which is the P side of the dual tone whistle, to stop the dog. You need to have some way to stop your dog. So let's say that in this scenario, Enzo breaks as Scott's trying to flush the bird or as he's shooting the bird. First, stop the dog. Your gunner can go ahead and shoot the bird. That's okay, because a lot of times they're already too far along to stop shooting. All you need to do at that point is get the dog stopped and then just hold them. Get them calmed down. And then as soon as they're standing calmly, have your training assistant, your gunner, go pick up the shot bird while the dog's watching and just throw it up in the air and fire a shot into the air. Your dog should remain calm this time. And if you don't trust them to, you should be holding them by the collar. You should be choking up on the check cord, making sure that they're really calm. And then once they're calmly standing there, at that point, you can release them for the retrieve. If they break again, simply repeat that whole process. Stop the dog, have the gunner go retrieve the pigeon, throw it up in the air, fire another shot, and then hold the dog till they're steady. Once they're steady, whether you had to make them so or if they did it on their own, then you can release them for the retrieve. The whole idea here is teaching the dog that as long as they stand calmly, they will be rewarded with the retrieve. And the retrieve is often the ultimate reward for these versatile gun dogs. So make sure that your training assistant is marking where all the birds fall, just in case he's got to retrieve them. Make sure that you have a way to stop the dog so that they can adequately learn this lesson of steadiness equals reward, which is the retrieve. Happy training.